Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Soul Brothers, Solana's finest podcast with, well, myself, Simon, and without Eno today, where it is our job to throw you into the Solana rabbit hole, show you around in our exciting ecosystem, and introduce you to some of our brightest minds on Solana. And the mind we got today live with us is Mida. Welcome to the show.
GM, great intro. Love that video, and yeah, excited to be here.
Let's go. Thanks, bro. Mida is definitely not your real name. I don't think that's going to be written on your driver license. Are we okay to refer to you also with your driver license name?
Yeah. Dan's my name. I've doxed myself before.
Okay.
I think my pinned tweet, I have a video about it, but yeah, all good.
Exactly. There has been a time, I think, in crypto where you haven't been doxed. I've heard rumors.
Back in the day,
It's been a while. Because you've been around for a while, Dan, in the ecosystem. I give you a quick intro to yourself, and then we're gonna kick it off officially, and we're gonna dive into some parts of your backstory here, because there's plenty to talk about today. You are definitely one of the Solana OGs to be around here, because you've been, like I said, in this ecosystem for a while. You have previously worked at Solana Foundation as well, and then stopped working there to pursue your goal of creating, well, a very successful NFT community that is also known to be a startup society. And I'm talking obviously about the Lucid Drakes. Besides that, you're also a native French speaker. You are part of the Super Team Canada. And you do also do a fair share of outdoor activities in your free time. And we know all this just from your internet presence, Mida. You do rock climbing, camping, skiing, etc., etc. Because you're not just a part of Super Team Canada. I believe you're also from that part of the world. Back in 2022, you owned a Tesla. I don't know if you still own it, but we're gonna get to that as well today. And one interesting side fact about Dan himself as well is that he actually referred to a book online called The Power of Now, and it helped him to conquer anxiety. And I definitely want to take a look at that part of your life again. And when you hear this right now, Dan, you probably thought, damn, that's been a while. I don't know when you posted about this, but anyway, we found it. Anything I said right now that isn't accurate?
No, it's good. Yeah, you did your homework. I did a really cool thread on mental health and like 2022. Specifically with crypto. So I think that's what you're referring to on the egg card.
Yeah, I think we need more of that, because the space can be quite tiresome. But look, there's a lot to unpack here in this episode today. I do definitely want to talk a little bit about your backstory and your upbringing in Solana, let's say. And a big part of that, especially at the beginning, has been the work at Solana Foundation. How do you get there to begin with? Because I don't even know how to land a job at Foundation. So how was it back then, and how did you even get started to work for a foundation, and what was your role?
Yeah, very interesting journey, definitely unconventional. Maybe I'll start like how I got into Solana, and then how I got into Solana Foundation, because it's very kind of tied together. So once upon a time, my Web2 job, I was a navigation officer for the Canadian Coast Guard. And doing search and rescue all over Canada. I was mostly based out of BC, so on the west coast of Canada. Did that for a while, got bored. I was in the operations side of things by the end of it, and did communications, like with basically emergency communications and day-to-day kind of activities on the Coast Guard front for all our assets on the west coast. Got bored. And then really, I've on the side, I've loved blockchain and crypto since I got in 2016 is when I first got into ETH. Actually, I got into crypto through ETH, not through Bitcoin. I really like the idea of like this like digital computer. So I was kind of a DeFi nerd at that time and just tried every protocol. And I remember in September of 2021, Solana got a bunch of hype. I tried it as I tried all these L2s and L1s. And I tried Radium, and it just worked. Like I felt like it was the first time I actually used the blockchain. I didn't have to like think about fees. I just swapped and it did it fast. And then like, that is very simple. So from then it took me about 2-3 months to quit my government full-time job, making it a good salary and just, going full-time into the Solana ecosystem. I fell in love with the community, with the people. NFTs was really intriguing to me at the time. And I kind of was dabbling in different little projects that I was building, and also just minting different NFTs. That was like really the kickstart of the NFT run. But I really liked one-of-one art, and I started to get really involved in supporting artists. And then at the time, I met DJs, the artist for Lucid Drakes. He was one of the ways I got into the Solana Collective, which at the time was a very small kind of niche Solana focused group run by the Solana Foundation. So it was kind of a great coincidence that I met DJs early on online, and later working together on starting Lucid Drakes. But also he got me into the collective, and he was part of Solana Foundation at that time. So that's how I got into that community. And then I just started to help quite a bit and participate. And then there was one AMA we did with Solana Pay. And I had a bunch of questions lined up. I was like super intrigued. I was one of those, nerds, blockchain nerds, and just wanted to learn everything. And then I remember during the AMA, like I was the only one asking questions. No one else was asking questions. So I was like, well, whatever. But then after the call, Alevtina, who later became my boss, she was listening to the AMA. And this was like part of her group that she was managing at the Solana Foundation. And then she DM'd me on Telegram, and I jumped on a call with her, and she's like, hey, listen, like, we're starting this new thing called Hacker Houses. We did one in LA, it went really well. We're doing one in Seattle in a couple of days. We need support on our Twitter and creating content. Saw you in the AMA. Can you go out and fly out and do this? I was like, yeah, like you give me an opportunity, I'll jump on it. Seattle was only like a 1 hour flight, 30-minute flight away from Vancouver. So it was very easy. It was during COVID, and that was very complex. And it was like the heat of COVID. So going international was a bit difficult, but got it done. Went there. I met Ellie, Ryan Shea at the time, and I really got integrated into the ecosystem, just making a bunch of content, helping as much as I could. And then, that's how I kind of got into Solana Foundation in a way. At that time, I was just a contributor, so I didn't work like full time with Foundation, but I was just, there's basically like this 8-month period before I got hired full time that I was just running around hacker houses around the world, supporting Ellie, supporting Brandon at the time, who's writing a lot of content for Foundation. Kind of got my feet wet there, and then started doing more data side and supporting as much as I can. Basically, like, whatever you want to throw at me, I'll do it. If I don't know it, I'll learn it, and it's like providing a lot more value than what they were paying me. I just wanted to always be giving them that premium.
Cool. So I think then there's it's an interesting journey to think about where you basically you came out of nowhere, right? And you started to work for Solana Foundation, and that tells us I think something about work ethic as well, and how to land jobs in general, or general advice. Because the one thing you did, you tell it to us, because I extracted it already from you. But what would you say was the single most important thing, or maybe two important things back then, from the AMA time until working there actually and succeeding at working there? What kind of qualities did you put every day into the reality to help you climb the ladder a little bit?
Yeah, I think just like work ethic and being determined. If I just the willingness to learn. Throw any problem at me, I'll tackle it. If others have figured it out, I know I can. And really having that mentality, and also just like they paid me at that time was a very, very low salary, or just like a monthly kind of stipend. It wasn't, but really I didn't do anything else but this. So I was like, I'm going to make sure that the money you send me monthly to go and do these things and help you guys is going to be like the most like bang for your buck. You know, and I want you to feel like that you're getting a lot of value from me, and basically just working full time on a part-time thing, and helping where I could, and always being available, and having this, like, you know, I think it's kind of easy to kind of outperform a lot of people. Most people just suck on a lot of the basic things, like answering fast, you know, and being active and being there. So if you do a lot of the little things really well, in details, I think kind of comes together, and you're able to kind of shine in that way, and then more opportunities, you know, will arise after.
Yeah, I always say that I look for proactivity when it comes to, especially for people that want to work with me or with anyone else in this world. They're looking for a job, because being active is great. That basically means just do your job, but being proactive means going a step beyond that. So you're not just delivering on time, but you're over delivering whatever the fuck you were supposed to do. And I think that's always a great way in life to kind of get good at anything. But anyway, so you basically went from Solana janitor, that's how the role sounds like at the beginning, at least, to Lucid Drake Den Master. And that all that happened within like a 2-year time span, I suppose, early Solana days until the start of Lucid Drakes.
Yeah, Lucid Drake started not too long after that. Maybe I can touch a little bit on what I did at Foundation, but I very much worked on this project in parallel.
Okay.
So basically at Foundation, when I got hired, I was a community growth manager, initially running the collective. Was very involved in supporting and launching different super teams. I got officially hired actually just after FTX, so like 2 weeks after.
Great timing.
At that time, I'm like, damn, I'm going back to Web 2. Like, this is like down bad. Like, I'm never getting a job. And they somehow hired me at that time. And it was basically like, okay, like you're on the community growth team, rebuild the community, because it just got squashed by Sam. So yeah, it was a really interesting time. I got to work with like incredible people. You know, the foundation is filled with so many legends and different in their own respects. So that was a great time. But in parallel, like I said earlier, you know, DJs was also working for Foundation. He was also supporting a lot of these hacker houses. We ended up traveling, you know, all over the world. I think I personally did like 7 or 8 hacker houses the first year, and I know many others were you know, all of us were traveling around the world doing these things. And then you kind of saw this like clique of people traveling to these events and like different hacker houses, but they you know, they kind of. So basically, me and DJs just came up with this idea where, you know, Lucid Drakes, he had drawn this character before, and you know, at the time, one art really wasn't kind of in. It was all derivative arts, or like PFPs, and we wanted to do something different. DJs was really artistic, and like it didn't really fit well in that box for generative art. And at the time, like, you know, Boogles had just started, and then Voxel Monkeys were the only like one of one. And these are early days, but this was like the only other example of what we were kind of doing at the time. So this was like early 2022, like February, and so yeah, basically we just started to go to these events. We did these auctions on exchange art, you know, and at first it was just bringing in all our friends together that we would meet across all these events. And like you can look at the auctions, like the first 15 drakes went for like, you know, 1 to 4 SOL. It was just really a friend group. But what was great is, you know, we would see each other all the time, and we kind of onboarded in real life. So it was very different than all these other NFT communities. And then we would do dinners, and then kind of from that core friend group. And actually, one important thing is, like, you know, ironically, like the people going to all these events are also very, very intelligent in some way, shape, or form. They're really in the trenches. At that time, early on too, it's like, you know, very special because it's very new. It was kind of like a nostalgia moment. So yeah, we not only curated like a great group of friends, but just like a really powerful network across the ecosystem. Many people were doing really incredible things in all branches of the ecosystem, and kind of just coming together and as a network of friends and trust in the beginning.
definitely very unique story, I think, for an NFT community. Super Solana centric, like very literally out of the womb of Solana. This is how Lucid Drakes were born. Like you as an insider from Foundation, traveling to all the hacker houses, which is by now Solana lore, right? There's no hacker houses anymore. So it now entered the lore stage. Back then it was I think the builder event probably, right? That like globally. Today it looks a little bit different, and that actually brings me to a question then. That I wanted to throw at you as well, related to just the overall branding of Solana today, because you've seen Solana back then and how it looked like. You've seen the beginnings of it quite early, right? And you've seen also the vision, I suppose, internally, where it's supposed to go. And now we're here. Now we're all kind of in the future, right? If you reflect your time back then. So how do you feel about Solana, the brand, and also the media presence, social media presence today versus what it was back then, and what the vision for it was back then? Does it bring up positive feelings in you right now, or do you feel like there's things that could run better? And say whatever you can say here, but
Yeah, yeah.
I'm generally curious about your opinion on, you saw it back then, and what do you think about Solana today?
It's really interesting. I think we pioneered a lot of the way that you bootstrap a developer community. So like, back then, like there was no really other L1s. It was all L2s really. And that was like the consensus was that, ETH is this massive L1, and then execution is going to happen on L2s. So what made it really easy for these L2s when they were launching, yes, they were raising massive amounts of capital, but like they basically could vampire attack Ethereum and the EVM, because all these devs already knew how to build on EVM. So you just, hey, build on our chain, and that's it. Where Solana really didn't have that privilege in the beginning, and we had to, no one at the time, it was Rust chewing glass, like was the meme. And we had to like build that developer base from the ground up, which was actually great. So we didn't get that head start. However, I think that is one of the main reasons why we're here today, is because we were forced to innovate and build this developer community from the ground up. So things like hacker houses was one of those. Like I think the first year the team did like 24 hacker houses, and it was almost, so sometimes there's 2 hacker houses going on at the same weekend, so the team would split. It was crazy, but like, insane amounts of effort. No other foundation, no one else was doing this, and we had to, or else, that we no one was building an SVM. There was, Anchor wasn't even there at the time, or maybe just starting. Like these frameworks weren't there. Metaplex was very new. You didn't have all these the tool sets or anything, so everything had to be, built from the ground up, and it was very embraced. Chewing glass was the meme. And we kind of like that. It was raw, it was cool, it was fresh. Rust is a very interesting language. So I think like a lot of the beginnings was just a lot of trial and error. And I think like with really Raj too, like experimenting, having like, really preaching this, and going out there and trying out new things and seeing what sticks, and doubling down on that. So I think like that was really the approach in the beginning, which was a lot of fun to me. Like building new communities, having that freedom. I think like the foundation approached things very fast, and having that flexibility to kind of pivot and experiment. However, obviously that like as the organization changes, things are very different than back then. Right now, a lot of that focus has shifted. Definitely a lot more institutional. Right, we're ready at that. We're at that stage. So I think like a lot of the events, things have definitely kind of catered to it. I personally like the kind of old days cypherpunk, like, chewing glass, having fun, like, new protocols are coming out, new problems. This is like NFT botting and all these things, and people are trying to come up with different, and then you had the royalties, and you just had so much, like, felt like every week there was like a different like community drama, and it was really interesting. The SMB story, the DJ Nape story. So yeah, it's definitely changed. I think like as an ecosystem, we've matured a lot more. We're focusing on, a lot more sophisticated products and protocols, and yeah, definitely have a different approach. I think, the foundation, I loved working at the foundation. There's definitely a lot of, ups and downs, like with every major organization. But I think overall, giving a lot of freedom to foundation employees to go and innovate was like a big unlock that I don't think many other ecosystems had, and that pushed us in the direction we are today.
Yeah. I think people look at Solana today and they might just joined it. They might enter through a Colosseum hackathon and they see all the amazing premises we have already now. Because building on Solana right now is still not easy, but the tools you have at hand right now are insane if you compare it to back then. Especially for hackathons, right? You made a lot of shit you had to make from scratch back then. And now you have all the templates, you have the SDKs ready. You can there's GitHubs everywhere left and right. And you have all the tooling. Like there's so much tooling already available right now. So that's a huge unlock, I think. But people also overlook, in my opinion, a lot of times what it took to get here. And I haven't been there the way you have been, right? Like I definitely joined later. Even though we started at the same time, I was like smirking earlier when you said about like Radium and your first steps with it, because it was literally copy paste my experience. Like
I think a lot of people have that Radium,
right?
Radium was the first thing that they hit.
Big props to Radium for onboarding so many people early on, because I definitely, I dabbled with Ethereum here and there. And then I came to Radium Protocol, and that was the first time when I really felt like, damn, this is innovative new tech. This is like, I'm doing financial services, I'm doing banking services without a bank right now, and it doesn't break. So that was pretty huge for me. But then I think people overlook sometimes as well what it took to get here in terms of like 24 hacker houses in a month, you said?
In a year, first year.
In a year. 24 in a year. That means you have 2 every month, and
these are 5-day events too.
Yeah, and like as you said, like no other foundation did that. And there's those IRL events are still until today what keeps shit together, isn't it?
Yeah, honestly, like the IRL that like I said earlier, Lucid Drakes were born from the IRL event, so it's like I that's definitely like one of my favorite parts, and I want more of it for sure.
Yeah, no, that's for sure. But then, okay, so we kind of learned a little bit about the foundation times and your kind of growth stages over there until you made it to the den. You made a clean cut at some point where you decided, okay, I'm going to pause whatever I'm doing or stop whatever I'm doing with foundation, and I'm going full in. So you literally made a decision to do full-time Lucid Drakes. Is that right?
Yeah. So last December, at that time, the kind of meme internally at Foundation was like, work yourself out of a job, which sounds very ironic and horrible. But I think a lot of us kind of did that. You've seen many other people like Austin kind of pursuing 00. Chase left. A lot of
and came back.
Yeah, well, in a different way. But we all knew that. Whoever knows Chase, like he was just going to boomerang back in some way. He couldn't leave. He's locked in. But
I'm happy he's back though.
But yeah, no, I think like a lot of us, are founders at heart at Foundation. So we had a lot of, and that's probably one of the reasons why a lot of us took initiative to do things is because we had the founder mindset. Yeah. However, as every founder, you want to be your own boss at one point and, build and think you can do better. So that's, I was at Foundation for including kind of the early time at Foundation, about 3 years, almost 3 years. I got there. I did everything I needed to do. I think really build myself professionally and got to a place where like in a really strong network with everything I was able to accomplish. And then how can I take this and be a bit more creative, have more flexibility, and just work on the Drakes kind of full time and not just the Drakes itself, but also just like startups as a whole, right? Like a lot of my jobs at Foundation was working with different startups. I love that side of things, the venture side of things, early, supporting go-to-market, all these different like kind of niche areas, community building, which was like what I'm really good at, and supporting that. So kind of just, hey, I want to do more of what I love and less of what I don't.
Mm-hmm. Makes a lot of sense, yeah. And I think it kind of worked out because now we're here. Like Lucid Drakes have 2 more Drakes, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, 2 Drakes. It's been
Left.
long minting process, 3.5 years, but we're almost
done. So obviously the first big question is when auction?
I can't give you a date, but hopefully quite soon. I know
Alrighty, I
it's
think
the easy cop out, but yeah, soon.
Soon. All right. It's been soon since a while, ladies and gentlemen, but I suppose we're gonna see it this year, if nothing goes wrong.
Yeah, no,
So
this year for sure. This year for
here
sure.
we go.
Probably sooner
Okay.
than you think, but soon.
Nice. All right. Yeah, that's good. It's already now we have an 8-week commitment. So that's what I wanted to hear. So it has been definitely a very unique journey as well because these auctions is something that I don't know any other NFT community that's really doing it that way right now or has been doing it that way. What made you come up with the idea of putting these one-on-one artworks on auction, doing like every 4 weeks initially? I think that was the plan. These kind of unique auctions. Why do you feel like that was a good idea back then? And what do you think about it now, reflecting back on it? Is it still a good idea?
So there's definitely a balance. Looking back, I probably wouldn't change it. It's a method that I know works. However, there's definitely a lot of caveats. The first year, we did an auction every week. So
Okay.
DJ was drawing like a motherfucker, and was 1 Drake a week for the first like 40, 50, which was crazy. And then obviously we slowed down. And like price points are different. There's no NFT market right now, so it's very difficult to kind of launch in these markets. However, I think the value proposition of what we have is very different than most NFT collections. And I think that's probably one of the reasons why, regardless of the NFT market, we've still done really, really well. And still doing well.
But what's the highest mint? What was the highest mint in history of the Lucid Drakes right now? What do you recall?
The highest
in
sale,
Sol.
The highest sale in Sol. I know the highest USD value was 60. I think.
Okay.
Sol, I think like 320, something around those lines.
Yeah, okay. Makes sense. So that is 60 with 3 zeros, guys, by the way. Not whatever the fuck you were thinking. It is they got pricey. So was it the auctions? Is it the value prop? What is the value prop? Why are these things so expensive? Like, make us understand, because there's people that don't know how people are buying NFTs for 50K right now.
Yeah. So great question, and love the tagline of this space here.
Yep.
But yeah, so at the kind of core foundation, we're a deep network in the Solana ecosystem that has a lot of trust with each other. So not only are we integrated across many protocols and can access different founders, and if you want intros and all this stuff, but most of us have all met each other in person. I think last breakpoint, over half of our community was at the event, was at our Drakes on Top event. I've met every holder except for like 2, and that's very unique. So I think like we've built a really deep trust, and you can trust these people. Where in Web3 it's quite difficult to kind of get to that point. Obviously access and network. So you have some of the biggest brains in the ecosystem and just underground killers.
Literally.
Yeah, big brain, namely, and then just a lot of other incredible Drakes, and then so you can tap into this network, so you can kind of buy yourself into a network. If you're a founder, if you're an investor, this is like a cheat code to be able to kind of have access to kind of this industry knowledge. And then we have our events. So this is something that we've really started to push a lot more, doing larger networking dinners. We host a lot of smaller dinners too. So Drakes, as have access to basically a small fund to go and host these networking dinners. So if Simon, you're out at Consensus and you have 3 potential great Drakes or something, we can we'll fund these dinners, but also just these larger activations. So Drakes on Top Abu Dhabi is our next one. It'll be an 80-person networking event on a beautiful overlooking Yas Marina, and really focused on, and we're really focused on providing these high impact networking events. You go to one of our events and everyone there is a Chad, is deep in the ecosystem. So having a Drake gives you access to that. But I think like one of the more exciting things that this is something that we launched last year. So first of all, like this is kind of our core, right? Our network, our community, and that trust, right? And then last year we launched Lucid Ventures, which is our community syndicate, and I think a lot of value is also derived from this specifically in the last year. So basically, as a Drake, you have access to our community syndicate, Lucid Ventures. We'll go through, different projects we'll apply or we'll go through and we provide different, venture opportunities. So as a syndicate, everyone can basically, invest individually from like $1,000 to, upwards of 50K. And then that kind of goes into one investment. And then at the end, we sign one check and then we support the community. So we've deployed around, I think like 800K in the last year across 8 or 9 deals. And we're, at this point, we've seen so many decks. We have a lot of access through our network. This is also a great way for, founders in the den who might not, don't have the experience as an angel investor, but want to get their feet wet or have access to these, very exclusive deals. Most of these deals are pretty hard to get in. So you get that access, you get that shared knowledge, everyone coming together on these AMAs to learn and ask tough questions. And then, hopefully, if your investment thesis is right as an individual or as a syndicate, we do quite well. And I think we've done quite well so far. So I think a lot of value comes from that. That's cool. Kind of like the why 50K.
Makes sense. Yeah. Understood. Definitely a good palette of, value props in there. And if it's only the fact that you have a community of 70 people you can trust, like only that alone is already very valuable.
Yeah. I think like, one thing that's really important is just really focusing on so it's a lot easier when you have a smaller community, right? Drake's only 69 NFTs. So like it's much easier to do things like, do merch drops and all these things, just less people to take care of so you can spoil them more. But also just like, I think what we did really well is not move too fast and try to build things that really our members can care about. Like a lot of you guys are very busy. You're a founder, you're a podcast host, like, so you have a very busy life. Like you're not going to be chatting and saying GM every day and just, being your community profile is going to be a lot different than typical Web3 communities. So how can we, tailor the experience to founders and investors who have a very busy life, but provide them enough value in the ways that they care in an efficient way so that they can keep going along their days. If that's with, networking, if that's with, great events, if that's with, really exclusive, great investments, these are high impact ways that I think a lot of our community members really enjoy and kind of just, doubling down on that. And a lot of these things are simple. You just really have to understand, your audience and what they want out of a community like this.
Yeah, because technically you're still doing that job that you did back then, just in a very different form.
Yeah, I just
back then it was. Yeah, you have a lot more freedom and you can create a much smaller group of because Lucid Drakes is, like you said, a 69-person community. It's different than a whatever the fuck Solana is at now when it comes to community, like numbers. Right, it's very different approach how to approach these both styles. Like right now, it feels more like an exclusive member club. Like you're the dean of some golf club or some shit. Like where everyone by name, you shake the hands. They get their curated experience with the Drakes. But let's also talk a little bit about Lucid Drake Ventures here, because I think that's a big part right now of your day-to-day, I guess, as well. Just looking at startups, evaluating deals, getting on your hands onto deals as well, talking to the founders and so on. You're not doing this alone as well. There's like a small team around you inside of the Drakes, which is called the Council, if I'm not mistaken. That is basically. Say again.
Our Ventures Council and a couple other people around that will help us a lot.
Yeah. Makes sense. What would you say is either your or the council's most important kind of vertical when looking at the kind of sheet of what matters for a startup? So it can be product, it can be the business model, it can be the technical parts of the product, it can be the team, right? The team and the founders. It can be the go-to-market strategy. It can be the past funding history. But most times these startups are quite early, I suppose, that are coming. So if you have to pick one of these, of all the kind of criteria that you look on your DD sheet for pre-seed, early stage company building on Solana, what would you say are you guys like, or you personally, what's like the most important thing? Like if that thing is good, it probably overshadows most of the rest.
Great question. First, to give a shout out to kind of this is not just me doing this. I am one of a team. So Voshin and Vibes on the council help, and then quite a bit. And then, Solana Insider is also very involved, and Amno has been helping us with kind of a lot of the reporting stuff that we recently started to do. So yeah, definitely a team, and this is not just me. And yeah, a lot of I look up to a lot of these people, and in many ways. So I'm I think I'm quite good in my lane, but I also know that there's things outside of my lane, and want to surround yourself with people to kind of complement that well. So to answer your question, I think I don't know, if you want one, I think the team is the most important thing in my opinion. Because everyone has ideas. Ideas are free. You can, make a pitch deck, and try to raise a 10 mil val. A lot of people do that without previous knowledge. So, when you dive into the team, like what's their previous experience? Have they been able to execute something large and complex? Are they able to manage people? Do they, sometimes it's just this like gut feeling of like, hey, do I like vibe with this person? Do I think he's, Web3 unfortunately is a very, can be a very toxic place. So really, seeing that, understanding like what they've done previously and how does that provide competitive advantages to, tackling the market that they're trying to tackle and the problem. I think like if you want one, I think that the person is the most important thing. Even if the idea sometimes is shitty, you can, that someone who's really determined and not willing to quit until the job's done is really what you one of the big factors you want to look for. Obviously, there's many other aspects, but if you have that, that's a very important kind of core. Because building a business in a startup is very tough in a very competitive market. You have so much capital in Web3, venture capital, and a lot of talent. Everyone's competing, so you have to really be able to handle that pressure. So I think, the team is crucial for sure. And also just like, not just as I think having a strong technical lead is very important. Oftentimes I've seen like kind of these ideas and then they don't have a technical lead. They've outsourced the dev shop and the dev work, and that doesn't really give you the same kind of depth. Especially if it's a technology first company, having a really strong CTO and developer background is super key.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. It resonates a lot with me. Like there's like one conversation that it was years ago and it's still stuck in my mind a lot with a business angel that I'm not even in touch anymore right now. But he said something to me that just stuck. And I asked him the same question in just in a casual conversation. I was like, hey, what do you look for in a startup? And the only thing he said was like, you just look for persistency, really, for like consistent, progress. And it goes up and it goes down, but I want persistency. And persistency is nothing that's baked into the product or the tech stack or your GTM or the business model. No, it's in the founder, right? It's in the people that are behind it, because there has been probably no single startup that is a unicorn now that hasn't pivoted at least once. And successful founders, they can pivot their way into success, whatever the fuck it takes. But you can't do that if you're not persistent.
Yeah.
So
another thing too that related to the person, like we do a lot of pitch roasts. You would know that, but like with different super teams and kind of like providing a lot of feedback and our input just to help these founders from our perspective. And sometimes like seeing how defensive they are. Are they able to are they very defensive? Are they able to absorb feedback? Are they able to pivot? And even if we're not right, we're just like seeing how reactionary they are, I think is really key. So that's to kind of put into how are we evaluating like a founder? There's many different ways, but I think just seeing how that communication is going. Are they able to defend their points? Do they have strong arguments? Are they more emotional? Do they admit that when they're wrong? Do they admit when they just don't know? Like if you ask a question, and I would much prefer someone, if they don't know, just say, hey, sorry, I don't know. I'll look into it and I'll get back at you, instead of just saying some type of bullshit just to cover space. So that's important.
Cool. Then slowly coming to an end, even though I have like a bunch of other shit I could double tap on, but
we can keep going a little bit. I have time.
Okay. We'll keep going a little bit. I have a few more things. One of the things that is, I think, also interesting for everyone listening is kind of just like vertical conviction right now when it comes to topics you are excited about, because it is a very opinionated topic. Everyone has one, right? And there are narratives that are always hot, right? There's been like a lot of AI stuff going on, but I haven't seen a lot of substance from these. But there's still people out there that say that is the biggest thing that I invest in right now. Is there any pattern right now? Are there any verticals that you personally feel pretty bullish on when looking at startups, especially obviously building on Solana? And if yes, which are these? And if not, then how agnostic are you? Like, are you looking at everything out there, or is there stuff where you say, I don't even look at this?
So we're definitely fully agnostic. Our bread and butter is Solana. Even though we haven't really made investments outside of Solana, we would be open to it, I think. But what we know best is the Solana ecosystem. So I think not like shutting ourselves off to any other like extreme crazy ideas. Even if there might not be a market for it, just being open to ideas is important, because I have my own kind of thesis and general categories that I love to, that are more interesting to me than others. However, I know I'm not always right. The market changes, so being like adaptable and receptive to that is super important. I think so. In terms of like sectors that I'm really interested, RWA is quite interesting. I think securitizing securities and tokens and equity, kind of there's many different like options out there, but what we did with Cplex I think is really interesting, bringing equity on chain in different ways. RWAs in terms of bringing other assets on chains, that can be debt, that can be different types of stable coins outside of USD, that can be other investments. I think that market, it's tough because you really why are we bringing these on chain, right? And is there a market on chain for these types of assets is a bigger question. But I am very excited to kind of see the experimentation on this and new team. Liquidity provisioning is also kind of interesting to me. I think there's many different types of you have AMM, CMM, order books, and then how can for example one of our investments like DeFi Tuna provided leverage liquidity, so you can manage your liquidity position significantly better, which is quite interesting. I think those are interesting. Consumer product is also interesting. A lot of these markets though are still very new and is kind of tough to see. I think when a market's really hot, for example, like prediction markets or stable coins, for example, right now, or perp dexes, there's so much competition there, and it's early move advantage is very real. So at this point, it's very difficult to beat Hyperliquid or drift.
So you
perp side.
You're basically saying that like perp dexes or any kind of stablecoin related protocols right now are already fucking like nailing it. There's already a lot of competition out there, and like a new entrant right now would have a really hard time. Like if someone pitches to you new perp dex right now on Solana, you'd be extra suspicious.
Well, it's not just extra suspicious. It's just like if you look at like a lot of venture capital has flowed into that. There's a lot of different teams that are trying to tackle the same problem. You know, there's a lot of competition. Your chances of success is significantly lower. Where like if you look at like emerging markets that don't have those players that have disrupted and at the top, like you have it might be a bit riskier of a bet in terms of the market. Like, is the market going to be there, right? Like with perp dexes, we know the market's there. Like this is something the market wants. Right? Yeah, launch pads. But we have enough launch pads. I've seen way too many launch pad pitches.
Everyone has one.
Unless you have some type of unique edge, that's very different. It's very competitive space. But like, even if the market isn't there yet, if you have some type of unique insight that the market's going to grow exponentially in this area, building in that area with a lot less competition, I think that's just like, chances of success are a lot higher. And you have a lot more room to make mistakes. If you're in a competitive place, you're compared to other protocols, and you have to be kind of at that bar or more, which is just much harder.
Yeah, makes sense. What's kind of the next big thing 2026, 2027, looking in the future with your little magic ball when it comes to kind of big things that you see, like they're not there yet, but there could be a big market for this. It is something that I want to see more of, but it's not there yet. And it's very experimental still. It might be too early to even say could work, but could also like miserably fail. But is there anything, any vertical or any kind of niche on Solana right now where you feel like, hey, this is interesting, that looks interesting. I don't think we're ready yet for it, but give it another 2 years and these might pop. Anything that comes to mind?
I think the biggest thing that comes to mind, like I kind of mentioned earlier, is just on-chain equities. Like I think like,
cool.
So one of the big things that I see on these decks or on pitches is like the products make sense. The problem they're solving is real. And then they come in with this like bullshit token, and like the token makes no sense. And it's like, in TradFi or in like Web2, like they're not thinking about different incentive models for their equity. They're just using it to raise, and then you own the business. So I just want to see a lot more of that. However, but then you have to think like, why are tokens like such a interesting way to raise? Because investors get much faster exits or access to exit and liquidity. So I think you'll in the next like year or two, you're going to see a lot more of a conversions of this, and like you're going to see less tokenomics design, not necessarily tokenomic designs, but you're just going to see a lot more like, here's the product and it's directly correlated. The value of the product is directly correlated to the token, right? Most of the time it's detached and it's more of a meme. And I don't think that's healthy. I think that's really, it's good to help founders raise fast money, but then they're not really incentivized to continue growing on this, where if you just, tokenize the equity in some way, I think you can attract those investors who want, the ability to have a liquid position much faster than, waiting 7-8 years, traditional, on the venture side. So you can have access to that liquidity, but you're also not butchering your, your future token and future project because you don't have some, governance coin that doesn't do anything. And your bag holders are pissed while your product's doing well, and that disconnect there. So I think that's going to merge. Outside of that,
I mean, that's a good answer already. If you have more, let me know. But I'd already have like 1-2 follow-up questions to
go ahead.
For people that might not be too familiar, because it is still quite new. I don't see any, tokenized equities. I mean, we do have who tokenized their DAT. We have a digital asset treasury that tokenized themselves, right?
Yeah, Ford, I think, is doing it. Galaxy, I think
Galaxy was first, I think.
Yeah, they've done it. So there's many different ways of doing this, and there's no consensus on which is the right way. So I think they used to be
quite new.
and those are permissioned tokens. So I think you're going to have a mix of permissioned environments where you need to basically be whitelisted to trade these, because if you own equity legally, you have to be you do have to KYC. So if you're trading these securities, then you do. But there's also new ways, innovative ways that you don't need to trade. You can still trade in a permissionless market, and so we've placed bets on those on that side, and excited to kind of see what the market decides is the best. At the end of the day, we'll see like what excites the market more for raising capital. But I think this space is still new. Like I said, there's no like one player that's rules them all, and that's still to be decided. So that's a really interesting spot.
Yeah, super interesting, especially looking at where Solana moves as a whole, right? Because internet capital markets are definitely a thing now. It feels like it has been always that way, but fuck no. It was last year. We didn't even talk about ICM. Like it's fairly new, but it's here to stay, as it looks like. We want all liquidity on Solana, and basically tokenize whatever the fuck we can tokenize, as long as it makes sense. And I think equities are kind of obvious if we want to be the Nasdaq of the blockchain world, then we should probably try to get that liquidity on chain.
Yeah, the issue is not if we can get these assets on chain. The issue is why. So people are only going to do this if they can make companies are only going to do this if this brings them a business advantage.
Liquidity, I guess.
And if you're trading on the Nasdaq and other exchanges, they're only going to, it's not about if they can tokenize their stock. It's like, why should they? So I think giving them just that whole design space, things like, borrowing against your positions, providing liquidity in these markets. There's just we know that DeFi can access a lot more than what you have access in other markets. But the only way this works and that we actually can bring, most of the securities that are currently trading in Web 2 on Web 3 is not by a 10% improvement. We have to provide a 10x improvement on the current UX. That's governance. I don't know about you, but if you invest in stocks, you get ballots in the mail. That's stupid. So how can, and you can't trade within after hours. That's also really stupid. Borrowing against your position instantly. There's many different cool features. I'm hoping that everything as a whole it provides that 10x. I think we're still in the early phases, so providing more utility to these things. But I think if we can provide a 10x experience on holding assets in stocks, and we can do that in bringing that on chain, then I think the market will be there. But we really need to experiment on terms of how can we expand this design space? How can we make holding securities and stocks on Solana not just cool and novel, but a much better experience than what traditional brokerages are offering?
Makes sense. That is a good point to wrap it up, actually, Dan, because we're coming to a full hour, and I like these words as a closing remark. Tokenized securities or tokenized equities, the right wording here. Definitely something we can look forward to for the next years, because as you say, I think it is underexplored right now compared to perp dexes and so on. Still, right now, Solana is on fire as an ecosystem. There's a lot going on. I think we can be happy that we have individuals like yourself building on Solana or supporting builders on Solana, to put it correctly, because it's a very important job that you guys are actually doing with Lucid Drake Ventures, because you're fueling the machine. Let's put it that way. Before I wrap it up, Dan, I have a few quick fire questions. That's basically just tell me which word resonates with you. You'll know when I ask these. Okay. You just give me which one you're more bullish on. First one is multi-chain versus chain agnostic. So it's the same shit. It is chain agnostic versus single chain.
Yeah, single chain.
Single chain. Token versus equity.
What did you say? Sorry, token versus equity.
Token versus equity.
Token.
Solo founder versus founding team.
Solo founder.
DeFi or NFTs? Yeah,
I love NFTs. I love NFTs.
You got it. Spot DEX or perp DEX?
Spot.
Oh,
Don't
pump.fun or bonk?
Bonk.
Canada or USA?
Canada. Fuck you, Kevin.
That was it. Good choice. Solo founder is an interesting one, by the way. How do you answer this?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. That was kind of a gut one, but
yeah.
I think.
What did your gut tell you when you said solo founder in that specific?
Because when you have you need one person, in my opinion, to just have this like insane vision and drive and be able to communicate that. Obviously, there can be more people in the founding team, but I think like
it can't be 3 people kind of balancing each other off. There should be one that kind of sticks out, and
one that makes the decisions, one that makes the vision. Here's the goal. Here's what we're trying to work for. If you have more than some,
it gets inefficient.
Well, yeah, it's just like you have more cooks in the kitchen, and like they might not agree. Not to say it can't work. I just give me one fucking amazing founder, I'll take that.
Cool. All right, guys, you heard it. You know what counts for Meta. You know what counts for Lucid Drake Ventures. If people want to find more about yourself, they can obviously go to Twitter at MetaPsilo. That is PSILO. That is your Twitter handle. So please, guys, follow Meta or Dan on Twitter. That's also where you will find the Lucid Drakes account as well, with all the links in the link tree for submission form or Lucid Drake Ventures, or even if you want to take part in one of these amazing auctions. If you have a bit of free money laying around in some corner, then stay tuned. In the next 8 weeks, there will be another auction. We're gonna nail down on this, Dan, or DJs. I don't know who's lacking here, but we're gonna see.
Gotta get drawing. Let's go.
Yep. You gotta get the job done. Dan, it was a pleasure to have you here. Thank you so much for joining Soul Brothers today. If you are listening out there, make sure to subscribe to our YouTube, because we are shipping a lot of content these days, and there's going to be many more amazing interviews. So do us a favor, and do also the amazing guests like Dan the favor. Follow Soul Brothers on YouTube, and make sure to tune in to the next one. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll see you at the next one. Bye-bye.
Thank you.